Bonsoir tout le monde et bienvenue à notre présentation ce soir. Good evening, welcome everyone. I just want to make sure that you can hear me. So, all the old Zoom habits, they come back, right? Excellent, wonderful. Very nice to see you all. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to try to keep it to about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. There's quite a bit of information, and I want to go through everything pretty methodically and give you an opportunity to ask questions. So please feel free to put anything you like in the chat. You're not going to interrupt. I will just go ahead and answer your questions as they come up. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Ed Smith, and I am one of the coordinating teachers for this exchange. We've been doing this exchange with this particular school since 2005. So this is a great tradition that we've had ongoing. Took a little pause because of COVID, but we're back this year and really looking forward to it. So I'm actually going to invite my colleagues to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with my colleague at Joel Barlow. She's going to go ahead, unmute herself and introduce herself to the group.
Hi, I'm Emily Kaufman. I'm here as the other French teacher at Joel Barlow. Looking forward to enjoying our exchange again. It's wonderful to be back at it.
And I'm going to invite our co-teachers over at Wilton High School. You're going to go ahead and introduce yourselves to everybody.
Bonsoir, I'm Myriam Franqueza, and I am one of the two teachers at Wilton High School.
So tout le monde, I'm Simon Valenzi, and I'm the other French teacher at Wilton High School.
And so together we're going to work as a team to make this the best exchange we have had yet. I'm very excited to bring on Wilton High School with us this year. I'm looking forward to working with them. This is going to be a really great experience. So without further ado, I do have a presentation. Again, this is going to be recorded. I'm going to make it available on the TRIP website, which I'll show you at the end of our presentation. So you can go back and revisit. And yes, feel free to turn your cameras off as I go through my presentation. You can sit back and be prepared to throw any questions you have at me. So here we go. All right, so we are welcoming again I can't even keep track of how many times now, the group from Cours Saint-Charles. This is a picture of their school, and this is in Orléans, France. It's not the most pretty looking school, as a matter of fact, but it is a decent sized school. And one of their primary goals is to teach their students English. So they have an English bilingual section. So if we take a look here, all right, where is Orléans? Orléans is just about 2 hours southwest of Paris. It's found in the Loire River Valley and has a population of just about 150,000. It's what you would call kind of a medium-sized city. And while where we live in Wilton and Reading and Easton, we're not really cities, distance-wise, we're about the same when it comes to New York. So there's a nice sort of correspondence there. So the students are very excited the French students to come see what American life is like out in the suburbs, and then go into New York City and experience everything that it has to offer. And then the opposite happens when we go to France. We stay in Orléans, and then we actually go up to Paris for a few days and get to see what Parisian life is like. So once again, here are the name of the coordinators. So we have Madame Franqueza and Monsieur Boulenzi on the Wilton side, Madame Kaufman and myself on the Joel Barlow side. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to anyone. We'll be able to help you, and especially as the exchange is going on. So we will be receiving chaperones. We'll be receiving 3 chaperones, as a matter of fact. So one will definitely be going to Wilton, one to Barlow. Where the third one goes is yet to be determined, because we're going to be receiving 30 students between the 2 schools. And depending upon which school ends up getting the most students, that's where that third chaperone will go. So they are actually in the process right now of finalizing that information. Number one, who the students are going to be, and number 2, who these chaperones will be as well. So probably the big question on everybody's mind is the matching. How do we go about doing that? So I just was in contact with the school either yesterday or today, and they said that we'll be getting those dossiers, the student information files, sometime next week. So once we have those, we can sort of begin the process. And what we've done on our side in Barlow, and we're going to do on both sides, is we're creating videos. The students are creating videos about their lives, who they are. And we're going to ask the French students to do that as well. And these videos are going to be posted up to a website that's called Flipgrid. It's a closed group. So that means I and the other teachers determine who can join the group, who can post videos. And then we, the teachers, also monitor those videos. So we can either approve or deny videos. So it's very well controlled. And this is a great way for students to get to know one another, sort of in a safe way. So we're encouraging everybody to do videos. We just did, there's one video up there about homecoming, another one about Halloween, all of these cultural things that don't really exist in France. And so we're hoping that on the other side, they're going to do the same thing, show us what Orléans is like, what a Saturday afternoon is like in town. What their houses are like, so we can get a better idea. So by doing this, we hope that the students will kind of slowly begin that process of getting to know one another. And then we're going to allow them to start communicating back and forth through emails, maybe even some Zooms. And through that process, we're hoping that there will be some natural affinities that will be created. Eventually, probably towards the end of December, the American hosts are going to fill out a personality survey. And we're going to then see if anyone says, hey, I'd like to host this particular person. And otherwise, we'll just ask people, hey, would you mind hosting this student? So giving everybody an opportunity to kind of get to know each other through the Flipgrid, then some communication with emails or Zooms, and then slowly doing those matches over time. So once again, let's just talk about the school. What's the school like? So it's actually a private Catholic school in Orléans, and it's composed of 4 levels. They have an école maternelle, collège, lycée, and prépa. All right, we got a question here in the chat, so I'm going to take a look at that. All right, so yes, so what's going to happen is those videos that the American students are producing are in English, and the French are going to do videos in French. So it's a great way for both sides to experience authentic language. So we've encouraged our students to be very not too casual, but to speak normally as they would, so that it gives each side an opportunity to really experience true, authentic language. So this particular school, Cours Saint-Charles, has this section anglais bilingue. And so many of the students that we'll be receiving have been studying English for anywhere between 5 years all the way up to 8 years. So many of them have a very good proficiency level when they come. And of course, their whole objective is to speak English, learn English. So there really is no need to have to speak too much French with them. So don't feel obligated, don't feel intimidated. But we do want you to try to communicate with them in English as much as possible. This is a little bit of a overview of the program. So this is going to run after the spring break. So they'll arrive on Monday, April 22nd, and they'll actually be coming up from Washington, D.C. So they won't be arriving until about 8 p.m. We don't have the exact times yet. The tour company will provide us with that a little bit later. So we basically will come off of vacation, we'll get through that Monday, and then we'll get ready to receive them in the evening. They'll probably be a little bit tired after coming off of the bus, so take them home, get them settled, have a nice dinner, and show them around. And then the next day, they're going to come into school and they're going to shadow their host students. On the Wednesday, the 24th, they're then going to go to New York City with their chaperones. So the American students will still go to school and attend classes. So it gives a little bit of a break to both sides. And they will come back at around 8 p.m. Now, a lot really depends on traffic. Some nights the traffic is really intense, and so it's a little bit later. But we always have a text chain or an email chain, and we keep giving updates as we get them from the group when they're on the bus. And then on the Thursday, they're going to, again, shadow their hosts at school. All right, we got another question in the chat. So are host families supposed to have a student enrolled in French? No, you do not need to have a student enrolled in French because they're coming with a good level of English. We've had students in the past enrolled in Latin, Spanish, or not even in a language at all. This is really kind of a cultural experience for everyone. And so we want to open this up to as many people as possible. On that Friday, they're going to go back to New York City again for another full day. And then the traffic on Friday nights can really be intense, so it might be a little bit on the late side. And then the weekend is open, and we do that on purpose because we'd like to leave time for the families to plan some good activities to do with their French students. And then they come on Monday and they get ready to go home. So it's really a quick experience. It goes by in a blink, can tend to be a little bit intense, but really so worthwhile, so much fun for everyone involved. Let's take a little bit deeper dive into some of the aspects of the program. So the students, when they arrive, again, they're going to be coming from Washington. So right now, we believe they're going to be coming at around 7:30. The arrival times will differ between Wilton and Joel Barlow. So they're going to come to Wilton first, and they will text us on the road saying where they are. And then we share that with the families so that you can be ready to meet them. So again, you want to monitor whatever sort of device you've decided to use for your primary communication. And we generally use the front of each school as the meeting point. That's generally the easiest and most accessible for the coach buses. When it comes to the shadowing in school, we ask the students to, in the days before, let their teachers know ahead of time that you'll be hosting a French student, what their name is. Some classrooms might already be full, so the teacher may need to make some accommodations with an extra desk. And sometimes the teachers want to actually incorporate the French student into the lesson. We've had that actually happen where they get to, especially in history classes, they'll ask the student what their perspective is, maybe on current events and so forth. So it really is a great way for the whole school to experience the exchange, not just those students who are hosting. We do ask that the French students stay with their host the whole time. So they can't really be allowed to roam the school for entire periods. So they really should be with you the whole time. And again, we encourage our American hosts to be good hosts. Introduce your guests to all your friends, include them in their conversation. But I think that'll be pretty easy because it actually brings a lot of attention to you. They're like, oh, that's the French kid. Oh, let's go over and say hi. It's a great way to kind of get a lot of attention. A lot of times we have people who worry about like, oh, am I speaking English too fast? Am I using too much slang? But you know, the answer to that is no, don't be too conscious of that. That's why they're here. They want to experience authentic American English. Many of their teachers in France come from Britain and have British accents. And so there's quite a bit of interest to come here to the United States to experience American English. And many of them are really good about speaking up about, if they don't understand something. So they'll let you know if there's something that is off. In regards to the excursions, they're going to spend basically the whole day in New York, and they're going to go with their chaperones. So they will come to school normally with you. So whether they take the bus or they get driven in or your student drives, we'll talk a little bit about that also in a minute. They just will come in the normal time. They might go maybe to the first period for a couple minutes, for the first 15 minutes, and then the French student will go to a meeting point at the school, meet the rest of the group and their chaperones, get on the coach bus, and they'll go off to New York for the day. Again, the return has usually been projected to be around 6:10, 6:40, but with traffic, it usually ends up being more like 7:30, 8 o'clock. That can tend to work out, especially if you have sports practices. So you can wrap up your spring sport practice, hang out for a little bit, and then wait for the bus to come back. So again, we always send out updates based on where they are. We try to give families about a 30-minute lead time, because I know a lot of you might live a far way out from the school. And so we want to leave you enough time to sort of plan. Maybe you've got dinner going, and so that you can get in the car and get to school and be there to greet the students when they get off the bus. For their excursions, they most likely will have money to buy lunch. They're probably going to have that already planned in. But it's also nice to just offer some sort of a bag lunch or even a snack for the bus. Just double check with them. And again, we'll be checking in with the French chaperones. They usually text us from the bus. All right, so that weekend with the families. So this is really time to kind of do something fun, a little interesting, maybe even low key. And it's really up to you, the family. Don't feel pressure to have to do something extravagant, go back to New York City, go to Boston, do any of those things. That's not really the goal. The goal is really to create some sort of connection with the student. And a lot of times it can be as simple as watching some TV, playing some board games, going to a movie, or some sort of sporting event. We've put together a list of suggestions, and this will be on the website. These are things that people have done in the past that fit sort of different lifestyles and budgets, from hiking to going ice skating, and we continue to sort of add to that list. So if anyone else has suggestions or things that they think might be good, let us know. But again, it's really something that we don't want families to feel this immense pressure. So organize those activities to fit your budget and lifestyle. They're here to see the real deal, how we really live here in the US. All right, so then on their departure day, we want to make sure that the bags are packed the night before, and you want to check with them that they have all of their travel documents, passport. Maybe they might have a visa, very rare, but definitely the passport. And you want to make some sort of arrangements that the student will be driven to school with their luggage. We've also had in the past families who coordinate, because some families, one of the parents may work in New York and it's just not possible to drive to school. So you find someone else in the group who's willing to pick the French student up with their luggage, and you make some sort of arrangements that way. So there's always ways around it. Gathering point, again, is going to be determined somewhere within the school. We'll have a place for their luggage. And then we'll have a little time for them to say au revoir. It goes so quickly, and really is sort of an emotional moment at the end for everybody involved. So that's pretty much the program. And so let's talk a little bit about the students themselves. So they do have a good level of English, and we do ask that you avoid using French with them, because really their goal is to improve their English proficiency. Some parents might want to try to use their French, and that's great, if you do a little bit. But again, we really want to do an immersion experience for our French students who are coming. A lot of times students have enjoyed just coming, watching TV and movies, because those are great ways to sort of sit with a native speaker. They can listen to the movie, and if there's something that they don't understand, they've got a great resource sitting next to them. Learning current slang and expressions. Again, we want to keep them appropriate, but that's really such a great way to enhance their immersion experience. Again, so some recommended activities. We do want the students to be supervised at all times. We don't want them left alone. They should be with someone, an adult. So don't leave them home alone. A lot of times too, we have students who say, I have sports practice. That's okay. Bring them to sports practice. Let them see what that is like, because they don't have organized sports through school where they are. We also like to make sure that there is at least one adult around, or who can be easily contacted in case of an emergency or some sort of event comes up. And we don't allow for the students to go to New York unsupervised. We do like to have a parent go with them. Again, should some sort of event happen or some sort of emergency, we want an adult nearby. And again, going to parties without a parent presence, we don't allow. Another recommendation is we try to discourage large group gatherings, because what will happen is when we have all of the French students and all the American students get together, sometimes the tendency is then for all the Americans to sort of group to one side and all of the French to group to another. Smaller group outings are totally fine. So if you and your best friend are hosting French students and you decide to do a group of 4, that's perfectly fine. Even up to like a group of 6, that's good, because then there's still going to be enough interaction between everybody. Really large groups of 10 and 12, we really discourage that kind of activity. So again, communicating with home, students are going to be bringing a cell phone or a computer with them. You just want to make sure that you provide access to your Wi-Fi network. They'll probably use WhatsApp or any of the other apps that are available for communicating at home. So that should be like one of the first things that you provide for them when they get to the house. In addition to, here's the room, here's the bathroom. This becomes really important for them. So meals. Their dietary requirements are going to be communicated in the student dossier. Some may have some allergies. Some may have some food sensitivities or intolerances. We really are working to do these matches early so that we can create some good communication between French families and American families to sort of work through all of these issues. I have to say, though, not many French people come with a lot of allergies, so it doesn't tend to be too much of a big deal. But you might have someone who is lactose intolerant, someone who is a vegetarian. But of course, we're going to try to give all that information to you up front. And if it becomes an issue, we'll work with you on that. We also tell you, don't worry about making any sort of special meals. We think, oh my gosh, we're hosting this person from one of the best countries of the world for food, and we're going to be serving them what we normally eat. Yes, serve them what you normally eat. Or, maybe think of serving some sort of specialty that your family does, something that is special to you. But you don't have to be elaborate at every single meal. It would be the same on the other side when we go. We tell our students, look, you might get that one very special family meal, but don't expect a 5-course meal every single night when you're staying in a French household. For breakfast, they might not eat a lot in the morning. They might have something very light. They might take a coffee or a croissant or something, toast. It could be very minimal. So again, those are things that you'll work out beforehand before their arrival, and you can kind of have some foods ready to go. Lunches. So we do ask families to provide lunches for the days when they're shadowing. And so basically you can do however your host student does, however the American student does. If the American student buys lunch, then if you could provide some money for the French student to buy lunch, what a great thing, maybe, to experience American cafeteria food, maybe. Or if you pack a lunch, just, maybe pack 2. And then again, whatever you make for dinner is good. Don't feel that pressure to put on a show. It's not the goal. We really want them to see what it's actually like. So I have a series of what ifs. And so here's one of them, my what if, my student gets homesick. And sometimes that can happen. Not generally, because a lot of these students have done exchanges before. Many of them have traveled before, so it tends to be rare. But in that off case, you want to offer some sort of activity. Get them thinking about something else. So go for a hike, or, hey, let's go downtown, or let's go to the mall, let's go do something. You could even find out who their friend is and invite their American host and say, hey, we're going to get together and go to the mall and just hang out. So doing some sort of activity, especially outside of the house, is a good way to help them sort of get over that homesickness. What if my student has a health issue? So again, in that student dossier that you're going to receive, they will list out any health issues. So you should be aware of those. But if something were to arrive, if it's a minor health issue, say like a common cold or a sore throat, we generally have the student contact home and we ask them to let mom and dad know. And then mom and dad will sort of give the student guidance as to how to proceed. So they might want to have the host family take them to the pharmacy to get some sort of medication. A major issue, so we would ask you to call the chaperones, the American chaperones. As we get closer, we're going to provide you with our cell phone numbers. We sort of are on call 24/7 during this exchange, so we're always monitoring our phones. And then we also ask that you do number 1. So you call us, you let us know what's going on. And then if the student is able, we want them to also contact home to let family know what's going on. And then together we make a determination as to the best way to proceed, whether that's going to an urgent care, emergency room, calling an ambulance. That would be the crisis number 3. You just would immediately call 911. Doesn't matter if it's if you're hesitating, I'd rather that you call 911 and have medical professionals arrive to evaluate the student, and then you can do 1 and 2 as the situation gets under control. When the students arrive, we're going to be providing our nurse. Bonjour, Madame Itop, who just joined us. We're going to be providing our nurse with their full medical workup. So she will be aware also of the medical issues that the students have. All right, what if my student has a behavior issue? So these students will also be required to sign a behavioral contract outlining basically the rules of good conduct. So what we ask you to do is, if you have any particular house rules, you communicate those up front with your student, with your French student, and don't be afraid to enforce them. If you feel like the situation is not improving, please feel free to call us. we will contact the French chaperone. The French chaperone will then also get involved. Don't feel as if you have to take that issue on by yourself. We're here to support you throughout the exchange, and feel free to text or call, and we will be there to provide guidance. And this is for our students in the audience. Hey, what if I have homework to do? Yeah, this is going on during the school year. So don't worry, the French students will have homework too. So be honest with them, tell them that you've got some stuff to do, and offer them a quiet place to work. Maybe you do some communal work at the dining table, kitchen table, or some other space in the house. It's also good for everybody to get a little downtime and a little bit of quiet time away from the other person, and this is a way to do it. If the French student has finished their work and you have more work that needs to be done, a lot of times they'll just enjoy talking with the parents, sitting and watching some television. If you've got younger siblings, that can also be a great experience, because younger siblings will be really keen on teaching them some English words and phrases. So there's definitely support that you can get from your family to get that work done for school. And again, that big question of sports practice, or you got to go to theater, or you've got robotics, or any of the great activities that you're involved in, we tell you just bring them along. They want to see what that is like. You can involve them. That's one option. So they could come and watch the sports practice. They might even be able to participate. We've had students who are tennis players, and they've come and played tennis, practiced with our tennis team. And that was really kind of a neat experience for not only the French student, but also for the whole team. But this is also a great way to get other students involved in the exchange. So I've explained to my students that, hey, if you can't host, you just don't have the space in your home, or it's just not going to work out, you can still be involved by doing activities in the afternoon or evening with the French students. So find a friend who maybe has some of that free time, or maybe can miss a practice for a day or miss that activity, and then they'll get to hang out and enjoy the company of the French student. Another option is that the French student can stay home with the parent. We've had in the past, host parents and French students, they bond over making cookies or brownies, while the American student is off, at work or doing some other activity. And that really is kind of a cool experience, not only for the French student, but also for the American parent. All right. And again, what if I have to go to work? A lot of our students have jobs. So we ask, if possible, just for the week that they're here, if you can adjust your work schedule. And if that's not possible, you can, again, ask a friend, a sibling, parent, maybe to help out in that situation. All right. We got a question in the chat. And here it is. What would you recommend for students with private extracurriculars not associated with school? Yeah, so that can be a little bit of a challenge. But again, what I would say is you want to go ahead and get that friend who can meet you right after school, and they'll sort of, I hate to use the term babysit, but they'll take your French friend for the afternoon. That's a great way to do it. If you really get stuck, let us know. We can find something for them to do. A lot of times there might be activities going on after school, and we can find something for them to do. All right. So if you decide to host a French student, there are some legal requirements that we will have to go through. The first would be a criminal background check for all adults who live in the household. This is actually put forth by the State Department. We're required to do that. We're also going to ask that you sign a liability waiver. That will go out to you well in advance. You'll have an opportunity to look at that And we'll be sending more information about the criminal background check to you so that you can look that over before making a final commitment. But just know that the reverse is also true for those who are coming and also for the families who are sending. So the students will sign behavior contracts and liability waivers, as well as the families. So it's basically a way to protect each side should the unforeseen happen. All right, so here is another question. I have 2 JBHS students. Is there a preferred one to shadow? Nope. You know, what's really cool about that is you could even split it up. If there are some classes that are more interesting than others, you could decide between your 2 students who gets the French student for which class. You know, math class can tend to be a little bit dry. So maybe, you know, hey, if you've got the option to go to a more interesting class, you could do that instead. So the 11th grader, you know, the students who are coming will be mostly between, I think at the youngest, 15, but mostly they're going to be 16 to 17 years old. And they tend to be fairly mature. Many of them have traveled before, as I mentioned. And just from the culture, they just tend to, on the whole, be a little bit more mature. So maybe the 11th grader might be a better fit for most of the shadowing. And then the 9th grader could also sort of fill in as well. All right, so we are coming on about 35 minutes. I'm going to leave just some time here for any questions you might have. We've been good about putting them into the chat. So feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat. I'm just going to give you a quick preview of the website that we have. All of the information is going to be linked here. I know for Joel Barlow, we're going to have it hosted. There's going to be a link on our website. I know also at Wilton, most likely the same. I'm going to send you by email the link to the website. And in just a second, I'm going to run through the content with you. So, do Wilton students go to Orléans? So that's a question that we will answer in the future. We're sort of still in the early stages. We hope so, but I can't definitively say yes at this moment. So keeping our fingers crossed, and hopefully we will be able to do that. So let's take a look at the website. So here again are the dates that we'll ask you to put in your calendar. The itinerary that I went through is there as well, so you can take a look. Again, a little bit of a description of the students, our email addresses, and the overall itinerary for the group. It also takes you a little bit through the step-by-step. So some of you have already filled out the interest survey, just saying, yes, I'd like more information. Step 3, we're doing our parent meeting. Once you've decided to host, we're going to send out our host family survey. So that's going to go out in December. And then we're going to contact you with information regarding your host and their application. And as we get closer, which will probably be in March, we're going to have a pre-arrival information meeting where we can go over any of the specifics of the itinerary and any questions that may have come up. We're going to host the video of tonight's meeting here and as well link to the Flipgrid. So speaking of the Flipgrid, this is what it looks like. And so we've got some students who have already posted here. We have different categories. So we hope this will be a great tool for the students to slowly get to know each other and create that bond and then start that communication back and forth and build that excitement until their arrival in April. All right. Is there any way you could send a link to the website? You got it. I will send that link in an email and you will be able to get that. Let me actually put it right here in the chat if you like. I'm going to send that to everybody. So there it is. There it is in the chat. So you're welcome to open that up and bookmark the website. And we'll be adding more information to it as we get it. All right, I'm going to stop my share and we are at 7:40. So if there are no other questions, I am going to bid you all a good evening, and we thank you for your interest, and we hope to see you in April.
Merci.
Oui, merci, Edouard, c'est
Merci.
très intéressant.
Merci.
Merci pour la
Merci.
présentation.
C'est super.
Excellent. À la prochaine.